Hey, yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to all y'all hanging out with us. I am Gifted, joined here today on NFT Live by none other than Biggie Poppins and Mike Finch, aka That Finch Guy. You might notice Nifty Q is not here. He's unfortunately not feeling too well. His ape may have come down with a virus. He may have the mark of death on his new rare cowboy ape. That's what I heard. But how are y'all doing, man? Well, welcome. Happy to have you here on NFT Live.
Dude, I'm feeling great. How about you guys? I'm ready to get down to business.
Yeah, I mean, Biggie, you're fresh back from Marfa, so we got a lot to dig in on art blocks and Marfa and what all's happening out there in the middle of Texas in the winter. Is it winter yet? I think it's winter.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
dude, it's cold.
yeah, I'm excited to get into that. But Mike, how are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm like the soldier that comes back from the front lines of the crypto trading war and reports that like everybody's dead and we're all, they're coming for us. It's been an 8-day journey and we're next kind of deal. So I very very tired. It's been a long 7 to 10 days. So I'm loving being here with you guys, man. Dig the vibe, love it.
Our vibe, our tribe. And yeah,
Yes,
shout out
sir.
everybody in the chat, but also Mike, very happy to have you here because you do have more of that financial background. And as we all know, like you just mentioned, it's been a crazy last week or two with the FTX, the downfall of SBF, FTX, and the fallout that's continuing to come from that. Namely, we're going to be talking about Gemini and some of the other stuff, but getting your perspective and experience with all the stuff happening behind the scenes, maybe some of the things that we're less aware of, that's happening on the up front and in the news headlines. Maybe there's some stuff behind the scenes that you can unpack for us. So Nifty Q down there wishing us luck. Appreciate you, man, for hanging out with us. Again, feel better. Everybody send some positive vibes Nifty Q's way today because he's on the struggle bus. But yeah, so maybe we get it going again since we are here and Biggie, you are fresh back from Marfa,
Yeah.
your experience with art blocks. So before we jump straight into the financials, the Gemini and all that crazy stuff, give us a taste. Give us a little bit of a tasty taste of what it was like hanging out with a bunch of NFT degenerates, generative artists, art blocks creators in the middle of Texas.
Man, I am so excited about this thing that's getting kicked off in the middle of West Texas. I cannot believe it. It's really very cool. Um, I think next year is going to be the year that really sets it off, puts it on the world stage. We're about like 30 some art blocks creators, everything from Tyler Hobbs to Snowfro, his brother Daniel Calderon, who's coming up with an amazing project pretty soon. All of these guys, many of these guys are already here in Mexico City, where I am for the Bright Moments minting experience, which if you go to their website and check out, reads like the ultimate rock star, generative artist rock star list. It's insane.
And those are
Um,
the crypto mexis, right?
yeah, the Crypto Mexas, which is like I think like the fifth city that they've done. They started with Venice, then Brooklyn, then Berlin, London, and now it's Mexico City. I'm really excited to see the outputs from this stuff because Daniel Calderon, Snowfro's brother, was one of the key people there. Providing feedback on how these things should come out. I personally am not minting one, but I'm going to be ready to snipe one the minute they start coming out because I want to make sure I get my luchador, dude.
Well,
Uh,
so
but
why not? Why are you not minting a crypto mexi?
honestly, like I because I in this particular case, I don't want to leave it up to chance, right? I want to get what I want. And sometimes I'm okay with that, like the randomness of it all. It's all good. It's just like a way to play the game. But I this time around, since it's my culture, and I really plan on keeping and holding this thing, I just rather, even if I have to pay a little more, I want to get my luchador, man. So I'm just staying clear of that for the time being. But man, I'm really pumped about uh, the progress that they're making, because every time they go to a new city, they enhance the experience. And I think one of the things that I like a lot about Bright Moments that they're doing amazingly well is like focusing on the experience. And it's very much like half performance art, half meditation. And in this particular case, they rented out this beautiful like old colonial style building here in the center of Mexico City, and it's called Proyecto Prim. And basically, it's I think 10 artists, and each artist has his own individual room, which he was able to customize. So basically, you walk in, and maybe they offer you your drink of choice. They sit you down, you have a conversation with the person.
Oh, dude, that's
One of
dope.
the bright,
So it's kind of
yeah.
like an interactive installation, or is it more just like a themed room?
It's definitely it's themed, right? Like the building is pretty big, so you're encouraged to walk around, and on the walls you'll see like some of the outputs that are possible, maybe some of the previous works. Then when you're ready to mint, you're led down this corridor into like the room that for the token that you either won or decided to mint, right? The Snowfro room, or the Stefano Contieri room. And each one again is done to their specifications, to what they wanted you to experience for that art, right? But it's almost like you're walking into like a Savile Row place to get suited up or something, right? It's meant to be special, right? It's meant to be an experience, which I think is super cool, right? Because it really builds that bond with the collector and encourages, longer term participation in whole. Because what Bright Moments is trying to do when they go to these different cities is they mint 1,000 crypto citizens from that city, but the purpose is to leave behind like the infrastructure and support to start onboarding local artists, right, into whole different like gallery viewings and stuff, which is
It's
just
really smart.
super special.
It's
Yeah,
really
I think
smart.
I think it's definitely something that we're going to keep seeing. And, and honestly, in Marfa, you see this too, right? Like Marfa is not an easy place to get to, right? You have to fly in. If you're not from El Paso, you have to fly in, drive 2.5 hours, which goes really fast. I mean, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's very meditative. Again, I don't know how they're going to do it next year, seriously, because like last year it was 150 people. This time around it felt like more like in the 450 600 range, but the town is small, so it's not like they can build a new hotel overnight. So when they do announce those dates for next year, I think it's gonna, whoever wants to go, it's gonna be like lock down your place to stay immediately, because I don't think there's gonna be a lot of room. There were already people going to like driving 45 minutes away to the next town over, just to partake and be a part of it. And the cool thing is that you're in a small town, so I'm talking about like 4, 5 blocks. So you're walking around from gallery to gallery to small bar to restaurant, and you're bumping into Web3 people all over the place. I mean, I was so lucky. I got like almost a half an hour conversation with Tim Ferriss, like fucking mind blown. And coolest dude ever, just so accessible. Snowfro, Tyler Haas, Dimitri Chesnok, G Money, Cairo, Derek Edwards, awesome conversations. Yes, there was a little bit of driving here and there, mentioning of FTX and the whole downfall of this stuff. But in general, like all I saw is just a bunch of passionate people just so jazzed about what's coming in the future. Because honestly, like last year it started with art blocks. This year Derek Edwards launched Glitch, and while we were there, I spoke to several artists that were already contemplating like possible, like just wanting to give back, right, to this cool experience out there in the middle of the desert. And they're like coming up with like some kind of project, or like a private mint or something. It was really dope. I
Yeah. And
highly
that
recommend, if you're into it, keep your finger
it's
on the pulse with this.
I think it's probably already one of the most valuable global NFT communities. And I think it will continue to be that. And, so shout out Bright Moments, everything that they're doing. I don't have a crypto citizen yet, But I was actually considering going to Mexico for this because I've heard, from the Intent.art crew, from you, some of the people that have gone like to, Berlin to do that experience, how amazing it is. And I actually recently got to do my first live minting experience at the Bright Moments Gallery that they just opened up a new one here in Venice, in LA. And honestly, they're doing live minting better than anyone. They're doing the experience in that community around the minting experience better than anyone. So it sounds like, Biggie, you're already making plans for next year, and you're very
Oh,
bullish on what
hundred
Artblocks is
percent.
doing.
Web3, we're going to be there. I'm going to really push for that. It's going to be something else. I can't imagine, it's only going to get better from here.
Heck
Biggie,
yeah. Well,
what's
let us know. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, what's the connection between Art Blocks and Marfa? Are they from that area or what? Because it sounds like it's
No,
like
yeah. So I was very curious too, man, because honestly, I've been there many times before, and Marfa was basically middle of nowhere ranch land until Donald Judd, a very prominent New York artist, decided to go over there and like build out his installations. Like many of his art installations that he has over there take up a lot of space. And so he chose there kind of like because it was so desolate and out in the middle of nowhere. And there's a bit of it's funny, there's a bit of controversy as there always is, right? That because Donald Judd came over and bought all this land that somehow he displaced some people and everything. But when you walk around Marfa, all I see is a bunch of people. I met a lot of people from Massachusetts, from New York, from Portland, like that have gone to live in Marfa because they want to get away from it all and like just create art. And so it's a really cool artist first community. And because it's not as big right now, it's having a little bit of issues that a lot of the places that are available for rent are focused on Airbnb, right? Like short-term rental. So artists are kind of struggling to keep
Yo,
rent for long-term
we
holds,
should,
right?
not financial advice. We should buy some real estate or develop real estate around
yep.
Marfa. Because here's what I see happening. Santa Fe is actually another town just like this that basically became like a hub for artists, right? It became this beautiful sort of, outside of the mainstream big city place where all these artists could go and live a peaceful life out, sort of more connected to nature, have their studios, connect, create installations and galleries. And then with all of that art, with the gallery scene, came more money, came more events, came more development. And so I could easily see Marfa becoming a hub, becoming a new place where people want to go have like a second, third home because there's all these artists and galleries there. And it's a nice place to get away. And there's cool events there, like this Art Blocks event. So anyway, not
A
financial
hun-
advice, but if anybody wants to, invest with
It's
me in,
funny that you
some
mentioned it
Marfa.
because Santa Fe was mentioned, like the next Santa Fe, also South by Southwest. But I mean, you already have some prominent people in the space buying property. Kevin Rose bought property there. Derek Edwards bought property there. There's two galleries now there. And to your point, Mike, back to what you were asking, I asked Daniel Calderon like why Snowfro had chosen Marfa as the place, and basically he pointed at Donald Judd. He said he was very much inspired by Donald Judd because and I had never thought about it that way, but some of his pieces, when you go there and you look at them, they are generative artworks. They're simply analog, but they are generative art pieces. And so it was like his way of bringing it back, to where he believes it all originated. And it's really cool. It definitely made me appreciate Donald Judd pieces a little more.
It,
Uh,
is there a craft brewery there yet?
no, there's a Sotol place which is all right, but I think like it's really wild. Like you're in the middle of nowhere, and they'll have like these really nice restaurants with like polenta and like New York strip steak and like tastings, and so it's really funky like that. Like best barbecue I've had in a while was there, by the way. Like just
Here's
fall off the bone, incredible.
Here's my bet. I bet by this time next year, when the next Art Blocks in Marfa gets together, there's at least two craft breweries. At least two. I'm
If there's
betting
none
maybe
yet,
three
though,
or
we're still
four.
early. We're still good.
Hey,
Hmm.
Yo, good sign. Time to get in. Yo, we're gonna keep it going right now. Let us know it in the chat. Would you go to the next Art Blocks get together in Marfa next year? Are you thinking it's a good place to be investing your time and maybe your money too? I'm leaning towards yes, but y'all tell us in the chat what you think, and also while you're down there, smash the like, subscribe. It really helps us get it out there. And you know what? If you don't, you're going to zero. You might lose all your NFTs. You're probably going to get hacked if you don't subscribe. This is security 101 shit. Subscribe to Web3. That is good wallet hygiene. All right, we're going to keep it going and get into the Gemini situation. Shout out to all the people who are participating in the chat so far. Loving these comments coming in. But yeah, we're going to get into Gemini and get that Finch guy who's with us. By the way, Ronin's going to be hopping in here allegedly in a couple minutes too. So this is a packed show. We got a lot going on, so do not miss it. Stay tuned. But we have Mike Finch here who has more of that financial expertise and background. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up Gemini and just kind of let you loose, Mike, because I'd love to hear, obviously you're sort of like, 30,000 foot view, what's going on with FTX and the marketplace and just in general, the sort of macro, but then any of that, background, inside baseball or any more details that we might be less aware of. That would be awesome to hear, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Absolutely. I'm happy to bring all the pain of the last 10 days your way. Like I said at the beginning of the episode here in the intros. I mean, obviously everybody's aware of FTX, and this is really still fallout from that. FTX may or may not have been fallout from previous blowups. Everybody talks about contagion, largely because so much of the inner plumbing of the crypto industry, especially around trading and custody and borrow and lend and all sorts of other, basically like financial aspects of the crypto market are super entwined. It's when compared to NFTs, which are obviously only a few years old here now in a significant way, like that's the equivalent of crypto back in 2015, right? So for the last 5 to 7 years, we have been building in the trading space all of this financial infrastructure that allows you to go to a Genesis and deposit Bitcoin there and earn some sort of yield on it, that Genesis then takes and lends out to somebody else. So effectively with the Gemini news or rumor or kind of whatever the status is there, right? I'm off Twitter for the foreseeable future. Too much doom porn and loss porn going on. But from what I've been told, having not looked there, is basically Gemini's yield product is having issues, as is Genesis lending product, right? So again, this is all interconnected. There's this giant concept of yield in crypto and in trading, which makes it very attractive to hedge funds and traders in the space, as well as hedge funds and traders outside of the space. So effectively, like the process that happens is the Gemini Earn is marketing a yield to its retail customers. So if you hold Bitcoin on Gemini, it's not earning anything. But if you deposit it to their Gemini Earn, you could earn 2% or 3%, right? Same with stablecoins. Stablecoins have been probably the most popular out of all of these because it's effectively dollars, right? So when you compare a Gemini's 8% or 7% or whatever the latest is on your stablecoins, it's always going to be way higher than what you're going to get in a bank account at 0.01% or whatever goofy rate that they're giving you. And in a similar way as to how banks do it, is that once you click yes and confirm on those stable coins, Gemini will owe you 8% annually that they pay to you daily or weekly or monthly, right? And it kind of compounds. And once you get to a year, it'll be 8%. You don't get the 8% up front. And in the meantime, those stable coins that you pledge to Gemini, they're taking and they're lending to somebody else. And the way Gemini makes
this
money
pledging,
on
that is, the pledging mechanism we're talking about with crypto is staking, right?
It can be in some cases. In this case, it's purely just borrowing and lending, right? So in the case of stable coins, which is popular because the rates are so high, it's something like an 8%. I'm lending 10 grand to Gemini. they're going to give me 800 bucks over the course of a year. And then what Gemini is doing is they're taking that 10 grand and they're lending it out to somebody, but they're doing it at a higher rate, right? So the people that are borrowing these funds from Gemini have to pay Gemini 10%, say, or 12%. So Gemini, if they're earning 10% on this, they're, and paying me 8%, they're making the 2% net gain, right? They're going to make 200 bucks. Multiply that by thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of different people all across various exchanges and other centralized counterparties, and all of the money that has grown within crypto over the last 2 years becomes a huge number. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are earned in this way, and it's a giant industry. Now, effectively, again, just in summary, I've lent $10,000 to Gemini. Gemini has lent my $10,000 to somebody else at a higher rate. Now, the reason somebody is borrowing that $10,000 or 100,000 or 10 million, whatever the number is, from Gemini is because they believe that they can earn more than 10%. So, to your staking point, somebody might put up staked assets with Genesis custody and borrow some portion of them out from Genesis. All of this kind of compounds, right? The more assets you have, the more you can borrow. But as time has gone on, and with the initial fallout from Three Arrows Capital and Terra Luna and all this, is basically like that opportunity for these various hedge funds has continued to go down and down and down, where it becomes harder and harder for them to make that 12 or 15 or 25 or 35% on these loans that they're taking. So they're going to start taking fewer of them. So this whole kind of like yield industry that exists within crypto and within trading, typically what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to, as times get worse and Bitcoin goes down in price and less retail traders are involved, like this should theoretically just kind of like slowly unwind, right? Where some fund can no longer afford to pay Gemini 10%, right? Because they're not making, maybe they need to make 15% for it to work. Now they're only making 13, so they're like, you know what? We'll pay back the borrow. It doesn't financially make sense for us to borrow this money because we're not making enough, to kind of make it worth it, right? So that's how it's supposed to work. The problem that started in June with Terra Luna and then Three Arrows Capital was basically that instead of that slow unwinding happening, is that there was a giant sharp unwind in the form of fraud in the case of Three Arrows Capital, or total loss in the case of the Terra Luna incident, where there was so much crypto money in Terra Luna that if you're a Three Arrows Capital, right, and you have $1 billion on your balance sheet and you have $1.5 billion worth of loans on that balance sheet, and then you lose $300 million or 30% of your balance sheet in the wake of the fallout of Luna, it becomes infinitely more difficult for you to pay back those $1.5 billion of loans and the interest on them. You might have even lost some of the loans that you borrowed on Terra Luna. And that is where that's the contagion spreading, right? Because what happens is Three Arrows Capital is not only borrowing from one person, they're borrowing from, like, a large fund, multi-billion-dollar fund like that is borrowing from everybody. FTX did the same thing, right? As a gap was discovered in either of their balance sheets, instead of saying, hey, we fucked up, we're going to return everything, we're going to wind down our returns this quarter, this year are going to be like brutal, and basically we're never going to be able to raise money again, and it's going to be a huge issue, but we're going to return a majority of customer funds. No, neither of them did that. They just continued to double down. They tried to paper over the gaps in the balance sheet that was caused by some link in the chain along the way. And what you end up with is the fallout that we have here today, where from retail people lending on Gemini to Genesis, who's kind of taking that money that's lent on Gemini, they're taking it from Gemini and lending it out to your big hedge funds. Because it's all interconnected, there's a gap everywhere. And everybody loses in some way. Like, there's really not a happy ending to this, other than the fact that like the assets themselves haven't changed. Like, we're not talking about an ETH hack, you know, Bitcoin's not having some giant fee problem and miners are shutting off, right? Like, this is purely the context that surrounds the crypto markets. And it's not good, but it's not kind of like the end all be all either. So there was a lot there. You know, any specific questions, hit me with them. I'll do the best I can to answer them. Obviously, it's very, it's very kind of convoluted and complex, but I hope that makes sense as to
Yeah.
kind of this
Well,
like wild chain.
it sounds pretty much like what you just talked about is fractional reserve,
Banking, yeah.
banking, and then the issue there is that there's not really any guidelines or regulations around like how much they have to keep on their balances, so they just like lend it all out and go be degens with all this customer money, and then
Yep.
when there's a call, it's basically like they're being called. It's like calling their bluff, or run on the bank or whatever, and it's just
Yep.
not there. The money's gone. It's all out there. That's basically what I heard you talking about. We do have a question specifically from Nifty Q here, and then I want to pull up actually a tweet from Edward Snowden, which I think is related to this, which is basically, you mentioned, Mike, Bitcoin, Ethereum, these things aren't affected in any way other than like the superficial, price. It's like a stock price, right? Like the daily price, the chart is affected by all of this, but what it's doing isn't affected in any way. And so I want to get to Snowden's
Right.
tweet, but here's Nifty Q's question. Is he bullish on any DEX or decentralized exchange platforms at this time? And how long will this major contagion issue last?
Yeah, it's a great question. Right after the FTX stuff, I know a bunch of DEX coins pumped. So there's some, if that happens after all this chaos and all these people losing thousands to millions to eight figures in this crash, be they entities or traders or whomever, if that happens, like, it generally kind of shows some confidence that there is a potential narrative there. What's up, Ronin? I saw Ronin just join. There's some potential narrative there. I think I'm bearish on one aspect of DEXs in the current state and bullish on one aspect of DEXs in the current state, right? There will definitely be innovation in the DEX front, and probably 2, 3, 4 years from now, that will end up being a major narrative and kind of interesting place to be and to follow for sure, whether it's governance tokens or whatever. But the problem that's always existed with decentralized exchanges, it exists in the order book, right? So when you log into Coinbase, or I was going to say FTX, when you Gemini, whatever it is, Kraken's still around. There's and you go to like more of an advanced trading feature, you'll see an order book, right? Which is just in green is the buys and in red is the sells, right? This is the order book that shows you what's available there, who's buying, who's selling what. It moves very quickly. That those are obviously centralized, and they process an insane amount of orders every second. So the problem that DEXs has generally had is that because they have to push almost everything on chain, often cases onto an Ethereum proof of work chain that just is not able to keep up, you can't really run the same exchange decentralized as you can centralized. Now, that's certainly come a long way, and it will continue to come a long way, but that's kind of the biggest problem that exists there. Now that you can kind of bundle trades off chain and then try to send them on chain, right? But there really hasn't, for like your high frequency traders and a lot of the action that happened on places like FTX, there hasn't really been a big catalyst to send people there for that reason. You get a little bit of a like chicken and the egg scenario. So you need that. That's kind of the part that like still needs worked out. I'm a little more bearish on. I don't think a lot of these market makers and HFTs and various traders are going to immediately just switch and go there. The part I'm bullish on is that after all of this, with your BlockFi's going down, Gemini Earn's now having issues, FTX, right? Like sub Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com clearly has issues, right? Like all these very public, centralized entities, exchanges, custodians, whatever, have all had massive issues effectively with the trust in their brand and their business. So the small subset of people that are out there that are looking at this and saying, I understand this is a crypto context issue, not an issue with the assets themselves. They're not like, it's going to take some time for them to put their coins on something other than what they own. So I think in the future, potentially near future, I'm bullish on people learning more about decentralized exchanges and using those just to simply buy and sell versus a Coinbase or Kraken, because that, we're at, whatever's left at the end of all this,
Heck yeah.
because of
Yeah,
the trust. So
you got to practice safe decks, y'all.
yeah,
That's important.
it's a good one.
And first of all, welcome. We promised y'all some Ronin today, and we delivered. He's here, Ronin the Collector in the building. What's up? How
Not
are you,
much.
man?
Good. It's been like a lot of meetings today, so
Hell yeah.
I will be not as talkative as usual. I'm glad to listen some.
Hey, we're just happy to have you. Whatever.
I'm happy to be here, guys. That was I really appreciate that breakdown too by you, Mike, because like I don't know that side of things at all, and it's always nice to hear people like kind of break it down and like what their viewpoints are. Because every time like someone does that, like I get a little more knowledge and I feel a little more comfortable and understanding, and so yeah, that's cool.
Heck yeah. And so to keep the questions going, because we are into this, Gemini FTX conversation right now, there's a question from Paxmark. What do you think about Rune? Are you familiar at all with Rune? This is something that Paxmark's been hitting on this in GM Web3. Apparently he's really bullish on it. So do you know anything about Rune, Mike?
I think it's Thorchain, if that's what he's talking about. I believe that's the one. I don't know a ton. I know they do have some sort of like decentralized exchange aspect there, but yeah, I don't know enough to like really comment on it. I mean, some of the ones that I think they kind of like pique my interest as of late are DYDX, Synthetics, Aave, and Aave even kind of falls into like some of that more old school arena, like your makers and some of these, right? Who some of those like DYDX and Synthetics are doing like futures products or other interesting trading products for crypto, whereas your maker and your Aave are kind of more of the decentralized borrow lend landscape. So there's lots of interesting players out there who kind of in the DeFi space did really well in DeFi summer and just have been down only since. And this is kind of the first potential real narrative that it's had in some time. Like another, one other part of Q's question initially was like, how long does this contagion last? And there's really no way to know, right? So that's kind of part of the trust problem, right? Because there's no one who's going to come out and say, hey, all the contagion's gone, everyone's good to go. It's hard to really know that. I mean, the proof of reserve stuff that some of these centralized exchanges are going to do is going to be good, but it's very tricky. It's hard to say. So it's hard to say kind of at what sort of like jump off point decentralized exchanges will have. It could happen next week. It could happen a year from now. But that definitely something to pay attention to.
And it's unfortunate, I think, like with these, cross-chain narrative protocols, like, what's the other one? Cosmos and Thorchain, of course, like they were so bullish pre this fallout. I think one of the things that I caught up with a lot of people in Marfa were that they just liquidated everything that was uncertain, right? And I vaulted to BTC or ETH and cash. USDC or something of the sort. Like, I don't think you're going to see a lot of cross-chain transaction for some time with so many people spooked. It's unfortunate, but that's one of the things I see. Mike, I have a question. Like, one of the things that I've seen that people don't reference enough, like, would it be fair to say that like this FTX catastrophe is directly connected with the whole Luna 3AC fiasco? It's just another domino that got, it took a while for it to fall. Because I see a lot of people, like already, like I can see people are like saying like Solana is at $13, great time to buy. Are you kidding me? Like this is not gonna resolve itself in 14 days, right? Like you're seeing the ramifications from June barely now hitting like things like FTX. In my correctness, like the suspicion that basically FTX like its biggest mistake was bailing out Alameda, who was affected because of the Luna 3AC capital thing. So,
it could be, right? Like one of the problems with decentralized nature of all these various actors, whether they're like Genesis, like, you know, a trading desk, or a FTX, you know, an exchange, is that you don't really actually know what's happening behind the scenes in real time. You only know in like 7 years when the bankruptcy case is done, or in 3 years when Michael Lewis's book about Sam comes out, right? And even then, he's kind of like speculating. So the conspiracy theories, like, I've kind of, not even conspiracy theories, but just like the route to how we got here, I've kind of broken down in two ways. I haven't entertained the like Sam is a Fed and did this on purpose to hurt crypto one yet.
yeah.
There is a lot of evidence for that, it seems, but I haven't, you know, I'm not going to go down that route. So the other ones are, the first one is exactly what you said, right? Is that FTX is just another, you know, nail in the coffin for, you know, crypto financial infrastructure, all because, yeah, maybe an Alameda lost money in Luna, or maybe they had so many millions of dollars outstanding to 3AC when 3AC blew up. Like, it could be any of those things. And the other portion of that is that FTX has been doing this for a long, long time. And Sam has effectively been the Bernie Madoff of crypto, where Alameda, his hedge fund, came in first. They came in as what you call very sharp money. They were very good at what they did. They had crazy promises on what they could deliver. They wanted to raise a ton of money fast. They were executing arbitrage opportunities that nobody else could figure out, supposedly. And they hit the scene on the trading front in a major way. People left great jobs to go and work for Alameda, or eventually FTX. And shortly thereafter, they launched FTX. FTX started as like a cryptopia, right? Like any exchange starts, like just kind of super sketchy, like, hey, like I might trade there because they have different assets, but no way I'm holding my Bitcoin there, or ETH, or any other assets, right? I'm in and I'm out. And they very quickly grew into like this powerhouse number 2, number 3 exchange behind Binance. But there's more evidence that they had issues from earlier on, and that they were actually able to survive the Terra Luna collapse because of the FTX exchange and all of the various deposits that would come in and go out and come in and go out. And, you know, these exchanges, like, it's not like you can just look up an exchange address. They might have cold wallet addresses where they hold funds in like a vaulted way. But if you deposit to FTX, it's basically a mixer, right? So it's very, very difficult to see kind of like, okay, I put my funds in, it's sitting in this address. There's a whole another story there, but I think the chances are probably equally high that FTX has been running some sort of like crazy Bernie Madoff scheme, bringing in money in a venture way, bringing in customer deposits, all these things, and that they've just been able to survive longer than others because of the FTX connection. But it's super hard to say. I mean, I'll give you one example, right? So like BlockFi is one of the latest down. And if you remember back in June or July, they were bailed out by FTX. So these poor people have gone from our business is over to, oh my God, the golden goat of the industry is saving us. We have a chance. Maybe we will IPO. We're owned by FTX. Like, maybe they got some equity, right? To then, oh my God, this guy's a fraudster who literally the whole time has been allegedly trying to get BlockFi to park their assets on FTX so that the game could continue. So it's hard to say exactly what happened. There's a lot of theories. You know, they're fun, they're depressing, but wherever it stands, it's not good.
These poor BlockFi people, Nifty Q, feel for you, man. Anyone who's in BlockFi, man, we feel for you. That's a rough journey there. But yo, some great comments real quick. Shout out to everybody. Yo, this chat is going off right now. I wanted to highlight a comment that came up a little bit earlier from Alexandra. I think it's Alexandra Damsker. This is not a flaw of blockchain. This is a flaw of human nature and lack of education. And I think that that's real. I think that that's important. And again, why, we see certain things like this tweet coming in from Edward Snowden that I'm going to pull up right now. So I wanted to kind of move into this and get y'all's hot take. Basically, what we're looking at here is Edward Snowden starting to feel a little itch, a little bull itch, thinking about it might be time to start heavying up. And he has a track record of actually calling the last bull run. So you can see in this chart that he created that he literally tweeted right at the bottom where it seemed like the market was getting super, super reactive back in March of 2020. And from there, you can see what happened. Pretty epic bull run took off. And so he's now tweeting again and pointing back to that. Still a lot of trouble ahead, but for the first time in a while, starting to feel that little itch. What do y'all think about this and where we're at in the larger bull bear, cycle of things? Do you feel like everything is so beaten down, like we're getting close to a bottom? Are you starting to, get back in, or what's happening?
I hate to be a pessimist, but I'll just like weigh in real quick. I think he's premature with this. I think there's just way too much out there. I'm not going to be the one jumping into this anytime soon, at least for the remainder of the year. What do you think, Mike?
I want to hear from Ronin first.
Man,
I'm hoping Ronin's bullish so we can get like a little bit
this is the part of what we talk about where I'm like, I just don't like play enough in it to like feel like I'm educated enough to make like an assumption of where we are. This is literally my first bear, so like listening and learning is definitely a part of it. I think Q knows more than anybody because I'm asking him most of the token questions. That like I get real antsy when it comes to this type of stuff, man. And so I'm not shifting money around. I'm not jumping into different things. So yeah.
No, that's good, man. I mean, that's one of the most important things is kind of like know your strengths in this market because it'll eat you up and spit you out for sure. I definitely agree with Biggie. I think if you're going to jump in here, you jump in because you're willing to be okay with a further drop downwards, but you know that as far as like being quote unquote close to a bottom, that you feel like you're reasonably close, right? Like last cycle, we were at 6K for the longest time, and you could have pulled a huge 5X just from 6K to 30K, like pre-Elon tweet, pre so much. But before you got all that, you had to see the price go to 3K or 3,800 or wherever it went, right? So now the 10K you put in is worth 5,500, and that lasted for 2 months, 6 weeks, something like that. Like that's a lot of time checking the price app and wondering like, oh shit, did I make a bad decision? Hearing from everybody else in the chat that like this thing's going to 1,000, blah blah blah. So I agree with Biggie that I think if you're trying to kind of buy at like more of an inflection point, there's probably better trades to be made, all things considered, with the contagion. However, one thing I was looking at yesterday is if you look at the Bitcoin and ETH monthly chart, so effectively every candle represents a month in its history. Both of those hit the 50-day smooth moving average. And the last time it did that was at COVID. Bitcoin's under it at this level, actually. So like the level of capitulation we've seen this year, part of me agrees with Biggie and says like, yeah, like this could I didn't think it'd get worse than this. Like one of the golden goats of crypto has basically turned out to be a huge fraud. It could continue to get worse, but also at the same time, it's one of those where like the other side of my brain says, this is it. Like look at the sell-off we've seen over the last 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Like you at some point you have to kind of remember that this asset class isn't going to go anywhere. So I think it just kind of comes down to who you are.
This is the 1 month ETH chart.
Yeah, here. Let me see. Might be easier if I load it up on mine.
Oof, that 3 month is rough. Yeah.
You want me to try and share my screen real quick? I'll show you.
Sure.
Let's see if this will work.
You may have to have permissions already if you didn't already.
Yeah,
so in the meantime, I mean, basically what we're saying here, though. Oh, there you go. We got
working?
it. There it is.
You guys see it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is the monthly chart from Coinbase, right? So we touched basically this line started at about that 3K level that I was talking about in the last bear, and that was it. That was the bottom. And then we went all the way up to 10K. Everything was looking great. We kind of came back down. We tried to push back up, got back up to 10K. And then we saw the COVID crash, which you can't see, but the wick ends here at like 4,100. So it bounced here and it bounced very quickly. The reason it bounced very quickly was because the Fed injected all of that liquidity throughout 2020 and 2021. And we kind of got this like weird double top on the monthly chart. So here we are now again, where Bitcoin has broken, has basically broken under that, and has until the end of November to try to reclaim it. You know, and hopefully get a wick up to something like 17.6 or 18K would be super healthy. So that's what I'm talking about there when I say that.
Heck yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Hey, you know what? Here on Web3, we talk about everything in Web3. Sometimes that's crypto, sometimes it's flipping, trading, and we're going to be talking more about NFTs here in just a moment with our man Ronin. But you know, it's awesome to have you, Mike, here. You got more of that in-depth, experience with the trading and the finance side of things. And so basically, if there's like one takeaway that I took from all this that I think all of y'all should take, it's
so you're telling me that FTX was just a big fuckfest? Caroline and
we had to do it at least once. The best video of the fucking month, easily. But yo, great conversation. If there's any other questions for Mike while he's here, go ahead and drop them in chat. We'll try and get to those. But I do want to keep the conversation rolling right along and get Ronin more in the mix here. So one of the other headlines that I do want us to hit on today is Sony, which is it's another big announcement in terms of the intentions of these big brands entering into the space. So here we go. We got it right here. Sony files patent for NFTs. Could they be next for the PlayStation? Obviously, again, Sony, one of these big international brands, tons of different IP, lots of distribution, tons of users, using their different games, their software, the PlayStation, their platforms every single day. Filing patents clearly has more of an intention to be building out different Web3 tech or integrating into the space. So yeah, I want to get y'all's takes on this. Basically, though, what it says, the patent titled Tracking Unique In-Game Digital Assets Using Tokens on a Distributed Ledger. That sounds like in-game NFT assets, ownable digital assets in-game on the blockchain. That's what that sounds. It suggests that Sony has future plans that include the tracking of digital assets in video games using tokens. Digital assets may include in-game items or characters and digital media of gameplay moments like video clips, images. In addition, the patent includes many diagrams outlining the process of tracking changes in ownership, visual appearance, or metadata. So here you go. Here's like the actual patent itself. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Dude, this was like a given, right? Like, I think what's really cool is that like we actually talked about this probably 2 years ago. One of the very first like networking events that I got into in the space. I sat down at a table with a guy who was in the blockchain division at Sony. And so like, that was my first like, wait, what? What'd you just say you did? And he was like, yeah, I work for Sony. I work in the blockchain division. And like, so we had a little conversation. You know, he couldn't really say too much like about what they were doing and what they were interested in, but like they've been looking at this for a long time and how it's going to apply to their ecosystem, right? And if you're a gamer, this is the thing that makes the most sense, right? Like just owning your digital assets that you're already out here earning and spending your hard-earned money on, whether, you know, again, you're earning them with your time or your money, either way, like you have an attachment to that, right? Like, and they hold value. And I think like it's just the natural way of things. And I think that as much as push as you see in the media from like, you know, Kotaku and all these other, you know, IGN or whatever against NFTs, it's you got to look at that from like a gamer's point of view, right? Like this is an industry that was like totally just turned upside down by microtransactions. Like the first one was what, $12 horse armor, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're an OG, you really remember $12 horse armor.
And we talked about this. They were actually pretty slow to adopt a lot of digital distribution because they had so much invested in those $60 discs. People like there's so much inertia from the gaming industry around the hardware and selling discs because they were making so much money that they actually were like most of the big publishers were not immediately on the DLC bandwagon because they didn't see, you know, how that was replacing all of that revenue immediately. But it is interesting here. You know, you've got three clear buckets that they're laying out in this patent. They've got the in-game items. So of course, you know, you've got like your different, you know, weaponry, a spicy herb as an example. So, you know, different in-game items. They've got in-game costumes. So skins, they call it explorer outfits and top hats as examples here, but obviously that's different types of skins, different types of looks, cosmetics for your characters. And then they've got in-game areas, which to me, this sounds like real estate, custom world, custom levels. So owning different levels or parts of a future Earth, parts of a custom world, that to me sounds like metaverse, like real estate.
Yep, owning a factory, like doing all these things, like it makes it's cool, dude. It's like seeing that step be taken. And you know, when to your point, like the industry it pushes back because why and this is exact quote from the guy who I talked to from Sony. He was like, you know, the hurdle that we have is we can't replace our current business model until like it makes sense. Like, right, we got our way of making money right now that works. Like, why would we change it? Right. So you have to show them why changing that foundational layer of like how they're doing business is actually a net positive for them. Right. Like at the end of the day, that's what they care about. And I think that when you sit down and you talk about like long term, you know, you have to, why would Fortnite allow you to own your skins, right, when they could just sell them to you directly? Well, because like they can create an entire ecosystem out of those skins that creates a secondary market that they're getting a piece of that is probably more lucrative, right? And then when you consider like, oh, well, what if they sell them and they take the money and it exits our ecosystem, right? No, that's not really what gamers do. Most gamers will take those assets that they put money into, they'll flip them, and they'll take the money that the net positive, and they'll roll them right back into the ecosystem. Buy a cooler skin, buy 10 more packs, right? Like if anybody who's NFTs knows NFTs, that's what you did, right? Like you bought some NFTs and then one of them sold for more than you paid for it, and you took the money you made and you bought more fucking NFTs. So when you like show that this is the habit, then there's more confidence in making such a move, right? Like such a huge move to their core like business model. So I think like that's why we're starting to see them move forward now, is because we're starting to like see it. And to Q actually asked earlier about like general like NFTs and like the whole, you know, ecosystem. You know, I work with brands during the day, right? So you're seeing a lot of these massive brands that are movers and shakers like Nike and Starbucks and now Sony, that are the head of their industry, kind of take those steps. And I think that that's what we're going to continue to see during this quote unquote bear, right? Like, I think for NFTs, we don't see as much volume probably, right? Like, obviously. But I do think that we see a lot more thoughtful, quality NFT experiences that make sense for a brand within like what they're currently doing. So it's not a huge overhead. You know, they're not trying to take on this huge project and launch some NFT thing that they're expecting to be this source of revenue. They're just going to start integrating it into what they're already doing to enhance that experience for their current customer base.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big Ear Mike, you got any thoughts on this big announcement from Sony?
Man, I can't add much more than what Ronin just said. I agree with most of it. I think it's a step in the right direction. I do think, I mean, the only thing that just, please don't be like Apple. Please don't be a walled garden. You know, the typical stuff that you're going to hear from me, although I expect them to probably at least initiate that way. You know, that's the only thing that I'm a little bit bummed about it. I think that's going to be the first step, right? But other than that, man, I mean, yeah, it's better than nothing, right? So yeah, I'm pumped about it. Let's see how it develops, right?
A lot of people agreeing with Ronin in the chat over there. We got Gat Trap saying Ronin ain't no noob. Sometimes the best time to grind is in the downswing. Bear markets are for building. That's for sure. Mike, you got any last thoughts before we keep it rolling right along? What do you think?
Nothing to add too much there. There were some great comments. Gat also said Square Enix just filed some paperwork for. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. He was talking about their acquisition, and I looked it up back in May. 300 mil is what they got for a whole bunch of IP and like game studio stuff in some form. So that was super interesting. I feel like I remember that happening, but I completely forgot about it. Everything moves so fast, obviously. And then the other one was somebody else had a great question about whether or not NFTs can kind of decouple from crypto, right? Digital collectibles, right? Like this is obviously a very different market. It's priced in ETH, but that is, I think, the biggest question to a lot of people. The biggest question that I have for NFTs probably over the next 6 to 12 months. Because like we were saying earlier, I think there's at minimum just like some boredom time to come. And what happens when like some community members leave in your favorite PFP or whatever collection, right? Like, do people kind of get fudded out at low prices, or do things carry on? And many other crypto folks kind of see NFTs as an opportunity outside of all the chaos in the centralized exchange space or the coin space, and because of that, you get some big art blocks boom or PFP boom or whatever. So all great stuff, man. The chat is lit today.
Chat is lit. Shout out to all y'all. And if you haven't, smash the thumbs up. Go ahead, head down there. It feels really good. I can tell you that much. I've done it myself. I've tried it. It felt amazing when I did it. So I'm sure if you haven't already, you hit it, you'll get a little dopamine rush. And subscribe to the channel, because if we're out here doing it. If you've watched a couple of our videos and you are not subscribed, you're a rug. Hands down, bottom line, if you aren't subscribed, you're a rug. That's all I got to say about that. But shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat. Crypto Buffalo, we see you out there. Always love seeing you here with us on NFT Live, our vibe, our tribe. So yeah, we're going to keep it going with just a couple more short hits. We're going to wrap it up in maybe the next 10 minutes, but we got a couple last stories that we want to hit on quickly. The first one is just it's just kind of a shocking number headline. So I don't, we don't have to spend too much time on this one. Again, these are quick hits. I just want to get some hot takes and reactions to these from the fam here. So here we go. Solchicks lost $20 million and didn't tell their community. This is, to me, just one of those it's all on chain. It's gonna come out anyway. Like, how long did they think they were gonna hide it? But just losing 20 mil on your project and not telling your community seems like a rough idea. But just coming out, I don't know if y'all saw this headline or have any thoughts on Solana. And also, you know what? More bad news for Solana in general, because I'm guessing Solchicks is a Solana project, and it seems like nothing good is happening for Solana NFTs right now. That's my take.
Brutal. Yeah, absolutely brutal. Solana is going through its like ETH to $80 moment right now, big time. And they have one of the biggest memes in crypto of Sam saying, "I'll buy all your Solana at $3, and then you can fuck off." And that's not a good meme right now, based on what happened with Sam. So yeah, RIP to Solchicks there.
Well, yeah, and the other part, just to add more context, apparently the guy who's exposed this, I guess the blockchain forensician, I don't know, behind all this, Zach XBT, had earlier exposed Solchicks about their shady marketing tactics via Twitter thread, bringing light to fake strategies that Solchicks used to gain misleading traction on their project. Some of these tactics including buying fake Twitter followers, using Discord bots to spam and DM groups of users, fake Reddit campaigns, and more. These are all of the worst things that like everybody hates to see. And so then on top of that, they're losing 20 mil and not being transparent about it. I don't know. It's just a crazy headline and more FUD for Solana. It's not great. Go ahead, Biggie.
It is, but at the same time, is it weird that, I mean, I look at it and I feel for the people that are in the project, and yes, it's another scam NFT project in cryptoverse. Wow, woe is me. 20 million. I'm kind of like, call me if it's 100 million or more, and then maybe I'll be like, wow.
We burned more than that on the other side.
Yeah. I think there's
Isn't
more
that
to come.
crazy, man? This is the fucking craziest space. You tell somebody like that, like it just lives in normie land. Like, yeah, there was $250 million just totally burned because a bunch of degens wanted to buy fake like fucking land. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so we've got who is it? XFi. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. XFi art. With all that's happening with Solana right now, one thing after another, do you guys think that it can recover? Quick hot takes on Solana. Do you think it recovers? Where's Solana going from here? We'll start with you, Ronin, since you're up. You got the big.
There's always a chance.
Spot.
Are you telling me there's a chance? There's always a chance, right? But what I am learning that like I absolutely am 100% positive about in this space when it comes to crypto is nobody effing knows. Like really, you can have as much conviction as you freaking want in a project, in a token, in a chain. It does not matter, dude. You don't know when you'll wake up tomorrow and 60 billion is wiped off the table. You know what I mean? So like in this space, I am learning there's no sure bets. So can it? Sure. Will it? Who the fuck knows?
All right, Biggie, Mike, who's got a hot take on where Solana goes from here? Are they going to make it?
Boy, you go first, Mike.
All right. I think the bull case for Solana is that if you look at like what it's actually designed for, it's not really designed for NFTs. It's really designed to kind of be this awesome innovative hub for financial products, for trading products. That's kind of where a lot of the development has gone on Solana. So ETH is kind of like this rainbow, and it does a little bit of everything, where I think Solana, because of its throughput, has really kind of focused on that niche. People have tried to like copy pasta stuff from ETH, and we've seen like it's not the same community. It's not the same type of people. Like, yeah, they'll buy a PFP of like, whatever the hottest Solana NFT thing is, but like they're not actively trading it. They're not necessarily actively, in these communities. From what I could tell, it was mostly a lot of people who missed out on ETH and just kind of went to Solana because that was the thought with the Solana NFT trade. So I think the bull case is like on stuff that we haven't seen yet, like really funky, innovative things that Solana can do because of its blockchain. But the bear case is that we're like going to go through a period here, or in the middle of a period where it's like people are going to disappear, right? And when you look at a community like Solana, it really just kind of comes down to like who is willing to hang on here, right? Like $14, yeah, it's brutal. We're down what, 97%, 95% from the highs, but like, okay, what happens if it goes to $8? What happens if it goes back to $3, right? Like who's still around building things and being innovative? So there's probably a huge reward to be had if you just go and hang out in a lot of these communities, like find kind of the biggest projects, see what's going on, and hang out there. And you know, if people are hanging around and there's really cool things happening and projects are hitting their milestones, then I think it will definitely be there. It has enough buy-in, even with all the outage issues. And like, I think the founder Anatoly came out and basically said they have 30 months worth of runway, you know, before Solana Foundation, you know, is kind of done for. But they could go out and raise money super quickly. So you know, if gun to my head,
you think
I'm betting on Solana.
All right. I mean, even after this, all right. Well, you know what? We got one more quick hit before we wind this down. And y'all thought we were gonna be taking it easy. You thought that we were done talking shit and funning on Sol. I'm sorry to say it's just not the truth, because we got another story, and unfortunately it's about Sol, and it's not necessarily very positive. So this is the last news story. It's sensational. I know it's just like influencer BS, but I just want to get some quick hot takes. And it is, of course, about Solana again. So the top G, self-proclaimed top G influencer in the whole NFT space over the last couple weeks or months has been ViLLian. I'm sure most of y'all have heard of him. He is most specifically known for being a Solana maxi, being a Sol trader. And apparently, again, I've got a Phantom wallet. I've gotten into a couple Sol projects, not a lot. I pretty early on didn't really feel the vibes in the community there. I didn't really like the quality of the project, so I didn't invest too much of my time or energy or resources into collecting on NFTs. But apparently, there's a pretty big scammer on the Solana blockchain in the Solana ecosystem known as the Solana Rugger, a notorious scammer in the NFT community. Previously, they've rugged projects like Reptilian Renegade, Balloonsville, and Doodle Dragons as a couple of examples. Actually, the Lizard PFP that Alex, aka ShiLLin, uses, they point to, is actually one of these rugged projects, a Reptilian Renegade NFT collection. So already a small connection there. But Twitter user Top Boy Crypto has created a detailed thread in which he claims, with quote unquote evidence, ShiLLin is actually the infamous Solana NFT rugger. They tweeted a thread on how ShiLLin could be the potential Solana rugger or at least be part of the team. Apparently, this is tied to a wallet that recently was sent 250 Sol to an NFT wallet belonging to the Solana rugger from ShiLLin. So basically, this is all right now. It has yet to be proven out. But a lot of times, as we found it in the Web3 space, where there is smoke, there usually tends to be some fire here. So the allegation here is that one of the biggest NFT influencers in the entire space right now is another notorious rugger who has been basically rugging all of these projects. I don't know. What do y'all think of this one?
Clearly, he didn't subscribe to Web3 if he's a rugger. But yeah, doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I'm getting like big time ICO vibes from back in the day, where kind of like all the dirt comes out once everything settles. So you hate to see it though, for people who like obviously were involved, right, and kind of thought the art was cool, or that this was their opportunity and maybe went too hard or whatnot. But it, you know, expensive education.
Definitely. And if true, I mean, it's a big loss of confidence for somebody that was so prominent in the space, right? In that chain, in that ecosystem. I definitely, I mean, I like Solana. It has a lot of promise. Regardless, though, I think sub $10 Sol is pretty much a given at this point for me, in my opinion. And like Mike said, at some point you're going to see a flush of a lot of users, and this is just another example. If this ends up being true, that's more people exiting that system, and there's other chains that are just buying to compete and to take Solana's space. And so I think like at this moment, being a maxi is just dangerous for your health. I think there's very few, if anything, there's two assets that are worth your time at this moment. We all know what that is. Everything else is just an experiment. So be careful out there.
Ronin, you get the last say on this story. Any thoughts, any feelings about this? And also, I would say I would draw a quick parallel between FTX. SBF was lauded as the golden boy of fucking crypto. He was everybody's savior. Everybody loved him. Like he could not do anything wrong. And now you've got another high profile, influential leader in the NFT space, potentially. Again, it's allegations at this point. Let's be clear.
I think the allegation is whether or not he was a leader, right? Like, I think he's just a voice. I think he's just like.
But people listen to him. I mean, he's influential. People listen to what this guy has to say.
Yeah. Do people listen to what he has to say for advice, or do people listen to what he has to say for entertainment? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I've seen people in tweet threads under him. Like, first of all, he has like a question mark, like a red question mark branding thing, and he's got a whole following of people that all branded their own Twitters after him. And I've seen people quoting that, yo, I made all this money listening to you. Like, I love you. Like, he definitely has influence. When there's definitely people that listen to him. I know.
Yeah.
That.
He I think like if you follow someone like that and you take them seriously, then that's on you. Like, I think that like it's an account that like, you go into any of his rooms and the man can't literally have any type of conversation with people without yelling, cussing, screaming, like calling people names. Like, it's not any type. I asked somebody, and I think we talked about it on the show. I don't know if it's this show or when, but I asked somebody like what the deal there was. And basically they were like, it's just like, we're the Jerry Springer fucking generation, man.
It's reality
like
TV.
Grew up on. It's reality TV, but in your ears. Right. So like, and that's the new thing is audio. Like, so, cause it's so passive. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's like an unfortunate, just like there's people like that in this space, and they're going to continue to do what they do. They'll continue to like use the platform in whatever way they wish. And unfortunately, like a lot of them make a bad choice. But like I think for all of us, like, to Mr. Joker's point, it's not a healthy environment. I agree 100%. That's why I turned my Twitter like notifications off last week, and I was going to turn them on Monday, but I've left them off all week, and it's been the best thing ever, dude. Cause like all the junk happening in the space and like stuff like that, man, I don't want to see that shit on my timeline. I was tired of people like breaking each other down, making fun of each other. Like, I don't care, man, what the heck, like this chick at freaking Alameda did, dude. Like, people raking her under the coals for like the way she looks is fucked up. Like, it's just like the part of humanity I'm not here for. And so like, and that he is part of that, and he represents that. And like, that's why like I get just like feeling so icky when we even have to talk about motherfuckers like that, dude. Cause like they're not good for the space. They're not good for your mental health. They're good for entertainment, but that's about it.
ShiLLin ViLLian gives you the ick. Hey, if he gives you the ick, go ahead and like and subscribe, because that's exactly like everything you just said, Ronin. That's what we're here to be. We're trying to be an alternative to a lot of the bullshit, the negativity, the sensationalism, the reality TV junk food in the space that, it might get a lot of engagement. It might farm a lot of, shit posts and likes and memes. But ultimately, I think we here don't feel like that's really the way to sustain and provide long-term value. So if you're here for something other than reality TV, junk food, bullshit, and whatever ShiLLin ViLLian and all these homies are doing, hey, be part of this community with us. So big love to all y'all for hanging out. Again, this chat has been absolutely lit. Shout out to EOS Watchdogs. Mean people suck. Could not agree more. Well said, Ronin from Crypto Buffalo. We're just say a couple of these quick. Mr. Joker, haven't been checking in on Twitter much either. Tons of negativity. I can overlook cussing like a sailor, but used in context, not as insults and childish behavior. Hey, great points. And then Nifty Q, despite feeling bad, hanging in there, shouting out Caroline. We love all of you. We will be back. Tomorrow's the last day of the week on GM Web3. Y'all, it's going to be lit. Last show of the week is always a good time. You do not want to miss it. So GM Web3 kicking it off on Twitter starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And then, of course, back here with the last NFT live of the week. We're about to wrap this up, but we want to do some last words with the homies, Ronin, Mike Finch, Biggie Poppins. Again, big love to y'all for showing up, hanging out, making this show happen. So y'all can sign it off. What last words? Go ahead.
I'll go first. I just want to remind everybody how cool it is to be in this particular sector of the crypto sphere at this moment. NFTs, community, Web3. I was just in Marfa. Like I said, of course, it was touched upon, but the majority of the people are there. They're not going anywhere. They're more bullish than ever. They're building. And I think this is the time. This is our time to grow exponentially. So, again, I think it's right what we were talking about. Tune out all the FUD. It's going to happen. We knew when we first jumped into this space that it was the Wild West. Here it is in its full glory, but there are bright spots everywhere. And so I just want to remind our viewers that it's good to keep the faith, and stay with communities like this. OVOT, sign up.
Love it, man. That was awesome. I'm hyped. I'm ready to run through a wall. That was great. Yeah, I guess my message would be that having started in this in 2015, 2016 and been through almost I guess 2 cycles now, from start to here we are now. The pattern does align that it looks like we're in for more pain, even if that pain is just kind of boredom and lack of innovation and lack of new kind of fun, exciting things in the NFT space or otherwise. But time and time again, history has shown that if you're willing to kind of stick it out and hang in there and not just kind of be an empty username in a Discord group or on Twitter, but that you're actively understanding what's going on out there, the chances are always going to be higher that you're going to be that first one to NFTs or DeFi or kind of whatever the next narrative and niche is inside or outside of the NFT space. So I know it's chaos out there right now. Every day, every week, it feels like something's just getting worse, and we're ready to implode. So if that kind of keeps going, I just I recommend and hope that everybody kind of hangs in there, because this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, and I guess I'll close it out with one thing I thought of while GIF was talking about everything going on. There is at 4 o'clock for anybody who was in on that rush Clubhouse. We're having a 2021 get together, so that was a big thing for me. It changed my fucking life quite literally.
Thank you for reminding me. Because I probably would have slept through it.
4 o'clock. I know, dude. I have an alarm set so I don't forget. 4 o'clock on Clubhouse. We are going to be
1 hour from now. 4 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, 4 Eastern. And man, that's just that was a big place. Come hang out, listen to the conversation, join in. Outside of that, man, this was a really good convo for the last half that I was able to catch. I really enjoy y'all's energy. Mike, it's always good to see you, dude. Biggie, I appreciate you, bro. And to everybody who hung out in chat, we appreciate you. If you didn't hit please make sure you hit the like button. It goes so far. It helps the channel so much. Subscribe goes a little bit further. And then, of course, sharing the link with anybody who you think will enjoy the content is that ultimate step of appreciation. We appreciate you guys. That's our vibe, our tribe. We'll catch you tomorrow.
That's it. We got to do it one last time, though. You know it's coming. You know.
So you're telling me that FTX was just a big fuckfest? Caroline and SBF having sex on those goddamn beanbags? Picture that in your mind. That is disgusting! Imagine SBF in a fucking orgy, fucking those other nerds, left and right, all all day and all night while playing League of Legends while they're fucking? God damn! All day they're just on their computer, taking amphetamines, losing money, and fucking each other in the Bahamas! Oh my God, that's disgusting!